Ilia Topuria or Arman Tsarukyan, if the belt wasn't on the line, who would be more satisfying for you to be fighting next, getting locked inside the cage against?
Ilia, definitely. We have a genuine dislike for each other, so I'd love to get in the cage and like settle that for once.
If you were to fight Paddy Pimblett, do you think that might be at a different weight division? Because he looked like a heavyweight in there. What was going through your mind when Paddy Pimblett stepped in the octagon?
He's fat. He's not someone that looks big because he has that muscle. It's because he's very undisciplined.
Did you think it might get physical?
I saw fear in his eyes, and you know, the eyes never lie.
I mean, Paddy, he's a good fighter, but he doesn't deserve to fight for the title. You know, he cannot jump ahead of me and fight for the title.
So do you think it should be you versus Ilia, Paddy versus Gaethje?
Yes.
Paddy Pimblett fired shots at Ilia Topuria after his recent victory over Charles Oliveira, warning him not to get too comfortable at the top. Paddy accused Ilia of mimicking Conor McGregor's look and style, claiming the champ copied his tattoos and overall persona. However, Paddy made it clear that Ilia lacks McGregor's true talent and charisma, saying Conor would have knocked him out with ease. The Liverpool fighter seemed confident that Ilia's rise is being overhyped and insisted that the Spanish-Georgian star is far from unbeatable. For Paddy, Ilia is more imitation than original, and he's not impressed by the image.
No, he's trying to be Conor McGregor, isn't he? You know what I mean? He's got the same tattoos, he's got the... He even said the other day, I'm going to put my balls on your forehead to make... No, you can't knock me.
Yeah.
Like, he's just a carbon copy of McGregor, and I think if some people can't see through that, even though you see some people now saying he's better than McGregor, but he's not. In the prime at the same time, McGregor would have knocked him out with a straight left.
Despite the harsh words, Paddy showed a level of respect for Ilia's skill set and current winning streak. He admitted that Topuria is talented, but questioned his mindset if they ever fought. Paddy believes Ilia would underestimate him and not train seriously, which he sees as a major mistake. According to Paddy, that kind of overconfidence could be costly in the cage, especially against someone who thrives under pressure like himself. Feels his unpredictability and resilience would catch Ilia off guard, making it a completely different kind of fight than the champion is used to.
He's a very good all-round fighter, lad. That's one thing what I always say, like I respect him as a fighter, and he doesn't respect me. I genuinely think if he fought me, he wouldn't train as hard. He just thinks he'd beat me. You know what I mean? I don't think he'd put as much hard work and dedication into his fight camps. He's on a legendary run, lad. He's knocked fucking Paul Holloway and Oliveira out 3 fights on the bounce, lad. That's an unbelievable last 3 fights. I still think he wouldn't have knocked Volk out if Volk didn't take the fight too quick, like after getting a kick by Islam.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would kick him everywhere, like I am Steven Gerrard in 2005.
Paddy also stated with bold confidence that he'd finish Ilia in the later rounds. He envisioned enjoying 4 rounds of sustained damage before putting Ilia away in the 5th. He described it as a fight where the buildup of pressure, physicality, and pace would slowly wear Ilia down. Paddy said shocking the world with a late finish is a real possibility, and that he's the kind of fighter who thrives when people doubt him most. The way he sees it, the longer the fight goes, the more it shifts in his favor, especially against someone who has never been dragged into deep waters.
I think the fans would love to see you versus Ilia finally come to fruition, right?
That'd be amazing.
How would that fight play out?
I'd finish him.
Which round?
I don't know. I'd love to be 30 seconds left so I can change his face for 4.5 rounds.
Could Paddy shock the world? What do you think?
Ilia Topuria, on the other hand, didn't hold back when speaking about Paddy. He questioned Paddy's discipline and physical conditioning, saying that Pimblett looked overweight and unprepared during their previous encounter. Ilia added that he saw fear in Paddy's eyes during their face-off in the octagon and took that as a sign of mental weakness. He claimed that Paddy isn't built to compete at the top level and would fold under pressure in a real fight. Ilia's comments made it clear he sees Paddy as more bark than bite and has little respect for him as a serious contender.
If you were to fight Paddy Pimblett, do you think that might be at a different weight division? Because he looked like a heavyweight in there. What was going through your mind when Paddy Pimblett stepped in the octagon?
He's fat. He's not someone that looks big because he has that muscle. It's because he's very undisciplined.
Did you think it might get physical?
I saw fear in his eyes, and you know, the eyes never lie.
However, Arman Tsarukyan offered his opinion on the talk of Paddy fighting Ilia, saying Pimblett doesn't deserve a title shot at this point. While he admitted Paddy is a good fighter, he believes the next shot should go to someone like himself. Tsarukyan added that Paddy should look at opponents like Justin Gaethje instead and prove himself in a more realistic matchup before jumping into a title fight. For Arman, the hype around Paddy isn't enough to justify skipping the line. especially with proven contenders already in the mix for a title opportunity.
I mean, Paddy, he's a good fighter, but he doesn't deserve to fight for the title. You know, he cannot jump ahead of me and fight for the title.
So do you think it should be you versus Ilia, Paddy versus Gaethje?
Yes.
Moreover, Chael Sonnen added to the discussion by calling Ilia versus Paddy a legitimate grudge match. Now that Ilia has defended his title, Sonnen suggested that Paddy might bypass other fights, including Gaethje, to chase the Topuria matchup. He emphasized that the rivalry between them is real and personal, and that's what makes it so intriguing for fans. According to Chael Sonnen, the UFC might be more willing to make this fight happen sooner rather than later because it brings genuine heat and backstory. He sees it as one of the few title fights that truly sells itself based on animosity alone.
Ilia Topuria versus Paddy is one of the truest grudges that we have in our sport right now. Some of you might not have known about it, and the rest of you might have forgot about it. But that B-roll and footage exists every bit as much as Masvidal and Leon exist. Ilia and Paddy exist. But how do we get there? One thing that Paddy said about his career, he said, I'll fight Gaethje and then I'll go deal with Charles. But he had a different idea if Ilia won. If Ilia wins and that's the big grudge match, move Gaethje out of the side, he's ready for the title right now.
Paddy Pimblett also talked about the physical matchup between him and Ilia, insisting that size would be a major factor in a potential fight. He described himself as stronger and naturally bigger than Ilia, arguing that this advantage would be critical in a real fight. Paddy said his physicality, combined with his pressure and durability, would allow him to overwhelm the smaller champion. He showed full belief in his ability to impose his will, and said he would not only win but finish Ilia. For Paddy, the size gap isn't just an advantage, it's part of his game plan.
But when you got in the cage, were you shocked by how much bigger you were than him?
People just think he'd steamroll me, you know what I mean? But
yeah,
it's different when there's that much size difference. People think that, you know, I'm not good enough to go against them and stuff like that. But laddie, I said to them, I will finish you, little boy. I finish you, little man. You know what I mean? Because he's like that much shorter than me. I'm so much wider than him. And that plays a part. That's why people cut weights. That's why you get to a certain weight division. Because that 10, 15 pounds makes a big difference. And as I said, I'd just kick up Topuria around the cage. Can't wait to shock a lot of people.
Paddy later said that a fight with Ilia would be the most satisfying of his career because of their genuine dislike for each other. He described the rivalry as one that needs to be settled properly and believes fans are eager to see it play out. Paddy acknowledged the personal tension between them and said beating someone you truly can't stand adds an extra layer of motivation. For him, this isn't just about the belt, as it's about pride, proving a point, and shutting down someone he sees as arrogant. The emotional buildup is part of what makes the matchup so compelling to him.
Ilia Topuria or Arman Tsarukyan, if the belt wasn't on the line, who would be more satisfying for you to be fighting next, getting locked inside the cage against?
Ilia, definitely. We have a genuine dislike for each other, so I'd love to get in the cage and like settle that for once.
At one point, Paddy estimated that there's a 50-50 chance he'll face Ilia next. He commented on Ilia's performance against Oliveira, criticizing his game plan and suggesting that Ilia looked nervous at times during the fight. Paddy felt that Ilia didn't look as dominant as expected and that there were signs of vulnerability. He believes the UFC could capitalize on their history and fast-track the matchup. Despite being unsure about the timing, Paddy made it clear that he sees a path to the title if the storyline continues to build and the fan interest remains strong.
Did you think if he were to win that you were going to be getting in there?
50-50, you know, because we were talking about it the other day. We were saying if he gets him out of there in the first two, and it's very possible. Like I thought if Charles could get him to the later rounds, might have been a bit different, but I really like Charles, but what the f was that game plan, lad?
On the other hand, Ilia Topuria later said he's open to giving Paddy a title shot if Pimblett wins one more fight. He acknowledged the hype and history between them, saying that's what would make it a massive event. Ilia made it clear that while he doesn't see Paddy as the most deserving contender, the storyline and fan interest are big enough to justify the fight. He's not chasing it, but he's also not ruling it out. The stars align and Paddy earns a solid win. Ilia said he'd be willing to settle the score once and for all.
For sure, he needs to win one more fight. If he wins the fight, he can fight for the title. I will give him the opportunity to fight for the title because we have a history behind, so it's going to be a massive fight.
Moreover, Henry Cejudo and Kamaru Usman both endorsed the idea of Ilia Topuria versus Paddy Pimblett, saying it makes sense from a business and entertainment perspective. Cejudo pointed to the growing tension and said it has all the makings of a blockbuster title fight. Usman noted that with Ilia now holding the belt and Paddy's popularity continuing to grow, it's a matchup the UFC should consider seriously. They believe the feud gives the fight an organic buildup that fans are already invested in. It's not just about rankings, as it's about storyline, heat, and what sells.
He mentioned Dustin, he mentioned Gaethje, he mentioned Armin, but the fight that would really make sense. Can I get a drum roll? Ilia Topuria. These guys had beef back in the day. The storyline is there, bro. They're both stars in the UFC. If I'm the UFC, I'm booking Justin Gaethje versus Islam, and then I think you do Ilia Topuria on that fight. Whoever comes out of top gets the next title shot.
You're absolutely right, Henry. If the UFC just like, hey, you know what? Let's make the biggest fight we can in that division, because Paddy the Baddy is up there as far as fame right now in that division. I like it, Henry.
So you prefer the Ilia fight?
I like the Ilia fight because if Justin Gaethje's fighting for the title, Dustin wants a retirement fight, Armin and Charles Oliveira are going to do that again. Hey, you hit the nail on the head. Guess what? Winner is ultra popular now and ready to challenge for that title.
Michael Bisping added his thoughts on the rivalry, saying Paddy's trash talk was a smart tactic that helped elevate his profile. Bisping believes that getting under Ilia's skin has brought attention to Paddy and turned the potential fight into something fans genuinely care about. He praised Topuria's rapid rise in the sport, calling it phenomenal, and acknowledged that a rivalry with someone as talked about as Paddy only boosts his star power. For Bisping, the feud isn't just personal, it's promotional gold and the kind of drama the UFC thrives on when building marquee matchup.
Now look, Paddy's talking and it's a great thing to do. Of course, have a rivalry with Ilia Topuria. He's one of the biggest stars in the sport right now. His absolute rise to stardom in the featherweight division was phenomenal, right? So for Paddy Pimblett, who's got a really tough fight against Michael Chandler coming up soon, we'll talk about that in a bit. For Paddy Pimblett, this is great.
Sean O'Malley also weighed in, focusing on the size difference between the two fighters. He said it's striking how much bigger Paddy is, even though they're technically only one weight class apart. O'Malley compared it to himself, standing next to much smaller fighters, and noted that physical differences like that can matter. While he didn't pick a winner, Sean acknowledged that size could play a crucial role if the fight happens. He remained neutral, but clearly sees the physical gap as a major talking point in the ongoing feud.
I wish they would do that Topuria versus Paddy fight. I know it's different weight classes, but the beef's there.
I mean, just they're just so different, and the UFC knows that. They're not stupid.
I feel like Paddy literally is way bigger than Ilia. I'm not saying he'd win or lose. I'm just saying it's crazy to think they're only one weight class difference, but he's way bigger.
Yeah, but if you saw Paddy on weight, close to weight, you'd be like, oh, he's not that huge.
I think you would be like, holy shit, you guys look way different. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah,
Just
Paddy's a big guy. Yeah, height, just everything. Like me and Schmitty standing next to each other. Way bigger than them all.
That's it for today's video. So what are your thoughts on this? What do you think about their fight? Share your thoughts in the comment section and make sure to subscribe and like if you enjoyed the video. Also check out our other videos on the screen right now.